Yeah, we're recording. Awesome. So yeah, me and Blake were just chatting there about he's feeling more organized in his life, just simply by doing sun gazing. And I was just saying sun gazing is awesome, and what affects our body and our endocrine glands and our blood and our lymph and our nutrition to our cells and less toxicity in our body is definitely going to help us have better emotional mood and better mental health, more creativity. It'll help your relationships, it'll help your business, it'll help everything. And similarly, if you have a really good like thing that helps you mentally and emotionally, then it's definitely going to make you make better decisions for your physical body through rest, sleep, exercise, anything and everything you do for your body. So it's a really good web of interconnectivity, body, mind, spirit. I like that. Interesting. Yeah.
Um,
So how have you been feeling with the sun gazing then, or anything else that's on your mind there?
yeah, the sun gazing has been good.
Yeah.
Um, uh, Trying to like also stay barefoot on
Oh,
dirt. I heard
lovely.
you're not supposed to be barefoot on grass. I heard going
Really?
barefoot on grass is takes away, makes you tired.
Wow, I've never heard that before. One thing that I've noticed with grass is that a green color really doesn't absorb a lot of heat, so it can be much cooler. But I love walking on warm grass or dry grass or yellowy grass, just not like cold grass. But I
Okay.
didn't hear that, so it's interesting if there's anything more to learn about that topic. I know,
Right.
I love barefoot walking. It's just so good. And here's a good place to barefoot walk for the ocean. I just like
Oh
this place.
wow.
And there's like nice
Yeah,
little
that's nice.
little trails.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think I will barefoot walk today.
yeah. Good, good. Do that. Yeah, me too. I want to do a bit of barefoot walking today as well, for sure.
Um, yeah, so I think I was wondering, like we were talking earlier, there could be like people can create like a limiting belief in their head or like a
Yeah,
limiting story on
yeah,
so I think I've always told myself, okay, like in one sense I have that I've seen people who are running their business, like these girls that did the swim lesson business.
yeah,
And then, or okay, even them, they're too big. They're like way too big. And
yeah,
I've seen all the bad stuff. Both of those girls got divorced, and it's just like I think they got consumed also by the doing that, and their whole life is like an emergency.
yeah.
So I
I hear
know
that.
that's too big. I know that's too big. But still, in one sense, I see it, and then I can see myself doing it. But then some thought comes, no, that's not for you, and it's kind of like
Yeah,
one sense, like when a tennis player is playing, and then he just like loses his confidence or something, and
yeah,
you kind of like self-sabotage yourself. So I think I
yeah,
have some of that, and
yeah,
even after this is getting a little philosophical, but even after I started learning so much about spirituality, I felt I would, or like even astrology, and I would think like, it's not my destiny to be like that. But then
yeah.
nobody actually knows what is their destiny, right? Even in
Uh,
astrology, even all astrologers, they all make mistakes, right? They, they,
oh,
they, they do. Even the best ones, they always make mistakes. So I don't trust. But at the same time, I like some people have said, oh, you have like a yoga for poverty in your chart or something, and
I hear
but
you.
then
Yeah,
I also I don't like to think like that, and so
no,
many people say don't think like that because they all make mistakes, and then also you never know because your destiny can change just from the force of your
yeah.
willpower.
I
So
totally.
I don't know.
We're not like doomed to like having a life of poverty or restriction or we have the power and the ability through our prayer, our asking, our intentions, our words, our thoughts, and our
Mhm.
behavior to do things, to exert influence. So like there isn't
Yeah.
like a negative thing conspiring to us to keep us like held in a limited box if we're actually trying. and doing our authentic self to achieve our goals, you know.
Yeah.
One thing that is true though, I feel if we're trying to achieve goals from our ego, from and it's not really for the highest good of all, we can be thwarted or sabotaged from doing that, I feel, to a certain
Yeah.
degree if it's not meant. For example, if you pray, oh, I want to like, you know, all these things, and it's sort of just like selfish motivations, which is like sort of not good for others, or it's even like bad for others. And maybe it's not serving our highest good. Sometimes we'll say, no, you're not going to win the lotto. Like, I know you're trying, you're praying, and like, it's sort of, you just want to like buy big cars for yourself or like big mansion for you and your girlfriend or something. But like, you're not really, that's not really what's sort of meant for you. So we're going to like just show, like, get you a little bit redirected and you can do other things with your life instead.
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
personally, that can happen. I feel we're much more likely to be aided and assisted from higher powers for things that are more like higher thoughts, like more
Right.
for the others and ourselves, more constructive. Yeah, I think that's what happens because our soul has a different idea or plan coming here than just our own immature human self. Because the immature human self is typically designed to grow and evolve to a
Yeah.
more maturity, in which case it wouldn't serve our soul's plan to mature if we were to just like get our ego's plan or desire or wish to just, you know, play games on play games in our big mansion after winning the lotto for all of our life, you know? Maybe we
Yeah.
won't get the mansion or the lotto or like all the games we want that we can play forever. You may be like maybe a few years of it, yeah, like maybe less money or a smaller house or whatever else. So yeah, I think there's a time and a place for everything. But if you're living from your authentic self, with your true desires and wishes, like for example, I think yours are fine. Like yours are perfectly fine. If you're like, for example, trying to not follow these ideas of pursuing your career in this aspect of having like a bigger business related to your career of like teaching young children swimming and swimming lessons, etc., then like if you're doing it out of excitement, then that could be aided by the universe and be something for you to pursue. Whereas if you're doing it
Yeah.
out of fear and feeling not good enough, that could then you shouldn't let fear and feeling not good enough stop you. You
Right.
could always so don't just give up so easily if you think because we not only do we have limiting beliefs and thoughts, but we have a feeling in our body and emotion based off our past where we were like basically treated like we weren't good enough when like if we said hi to our parent and they just like did because they're stressed or they didn't look at us, like that's like a bid for connection or from a child or and then if they don't look at us and make eye contact and say oh hi or like hey what are you trying to show me there, all these little subtle build-ups of if people reciprocate our bid for connection, be it in a romantic relationship or a child parent relationship, if we're ignored or shunned or pushed away or rejected or abandoned, that sends us the signal that there's something wrong with us, and that's why they're doing that. Because children don't know any better, they personalize and internalize any rejection or abandonment as if there's something wrong with them or that they're bad. So it becomes part of their identity that they're bad, wrong, or flawed or not good enough. It's like a
Uh-huh.
shameful idea about themselves, and we may not even fully notice. It's like we're very unconscious and deep within our subconscious. Yeah, where we're not going around every day talking to ourselves like we're not good enough, but we may have the feeling like, ah, I'm not good enough. Like could be a feeling of sadness in our body, or you know, just like depression type of low feeling, and that
Uh-huh.
could be tied in at the root cause of any sort of what's the word like procrastination, where we just feel like, ugh, I'm probably just not going to be able to do this because I'm not really good enough anyway in the first place. So may as well not even try. And especially with
Uh-huh.
maybe things like out of our comfort zone. So often psychologically we're more comfortable in our comfort zone. If we're uncomfortable in a that could be our comfort. Our comfort zone can be uncomfortable. Like we're comfortable with the uncomfortable feeling, long term uncomfortable feeling. That's why sometimes people stay in like relationships for a long time. It's more fearful of they're more afraid of the unknown, or we're more afraid of the unknown than we are of staying in
Yeah.
our current uncomfortable situation that's like ongoing. So yeah, there is a few aspects of whether or not we should pursue something, and just things to work on. And tapping can help, and also just reflecting on our thoughts and how we
Uh-huh.
and ask ourselves, how do I feel about myself? Like, do I feel capable, big and strong, or do I feel like small, incapable, and weak? and maybe not deserving and not good enough? Or do I feel deserving and good enough? Like, am I able to do this? Can I get this? Is it okay that I have all these things that I want? Is it coming from an authentic place? Or am I trying to show off and boast and improve my self-esteem by like showing off and getting this fancy car, this fancy girl, this fancy house? Like,
Yeah.
where is it coming from that I want these things? Is it for my family, for myself, for the community, and it's beneficial? Or is it just sort of from these places where I'm trying to like make myself feel better because I feel bad inwardly? And that's from trauma and our own self-esteem and our own self-image. And it can be either come from shame or positive self-image and positive self-esteem, where we feel we're good and we're right, and versus bad or wrong. And that's what shame is. We feel we're bad or wrong. So yeah, shame is like deep and it permeates our entire being and it comes from childhood mostly. And the more trauma we have, the more shame we have. And because the worse we were abused, neglected, and abandoned, then we internalize and say, we don't just say they acted bad, but I'm good. As a youngster, you'll say they're pushing me away and being not nice to me and abandoning me. It must be because I'm something wrong with me. And when we have
Right.
that permeating our life, that's like very destructive. So like there's deep roots to like to abuse, neglect, and abandonment. It really,
Uh-huh.
really for a long time, very, very, very long time until we get working on it, you know. And that's what my community is for, to help people with this and more. So yeah, it's really important our identity or our self-image of who we believe and feel ourselves to be. So we need to let go of these things through. I like tapping a lot, or seeing a really good like healer or therapist that's like really good, hopefully holistic and spiritual, hopefully as well, so to speak. Yeah, for sure, definitely. Not just like yeah, and work on all aspects of our life, our body, our habits, our health, our diet, our physical habits in general. Um, and always reflect on our relationships. The relationships will be the biggest mirror of how we feel about ourselves, because the worse our relationships means we're allowing people to mistreat us instead of saying no, I don't deserve this, and I'm worth more. So the more we
Right.
still have lingering wounds from childhood, we'll accept like poor behavior or continuing abuse, abandonment, or rejection and poor treatment from current people in our life. So yeah, our relationships are really, really good gauge in general, for sure, of how healed we are, as well as just our general daily habits, like is it like how are we living? But yeah, I think
Yeah.
that kind of covers a big area. Your your sort of your wondering or your inquiry, doesn't it?
Yeah, that makes sense. I didn't put it together that that would be that would be the underlying cause. But
Yeah,
now when you're saying that, I can just see how I tolerated so many bad situations, just
yeah,
tolerated it.
I know. Me too. Yeah, for sure.
And I had, and then I look back, I'm like, why did I tolerate that for so long, you know?
Yeah,
And
me. It's so
I,
funny, isn't it?
yeah, and I see my sister doing the same thing.
I know. There's like a tipping point, like a crunch, like we reach the top of the mountains, like we look back and we're like, why did I put up with that or do that for so long? Why did I put up with that from myself or from others? You know? Why
Yeah,
did I do that or allow that, to myself or from others, And then like,
yeah,
wow, we've just evolved and it's a new page of our life, a new chapter, a new page. And we can, yeah, it's really, really interesting that is, yeah. And yeah. So there's what you could tap about is really good. Like tapping, you could just like search tapping Brad Yates or tapping on EFT. You could tap for like feeling good, not feeling good enough, or tapping EFT, feeling good enough, or self-esteem, or following my purpose, or abundance or prosperity. You could type in various words with tapping or EFT, and then you can follow these videos, and you can also even make up
mhm.
your own. But tapping is one way, as well as seeing people who holistically help you.
So, Owen, what I think is going on with the sun staring or the sun
Yeah,
gazing, right?
yeah, yeah,
So there was one astrologer, and she was saying that, everyone has their purpose, right? Your
Yeah.
like your life's purpose, your soul's purpose on earth
Yeah.
in this
Yeah. Yeah.
lifetime, right? And so if you do that, you'll naturally feel happy, you'll naturally do better, and then you'll be able to, like get your needs met, your
Yeah.
financial needs met. And so I think I found that for teaching swimming, and maybe I can branch out and try teaching yoga too.
All right.
Uh,
Cool.
maybe I could even become like a detoxification specialist as I
Yeah.
go through my journey.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so so, uh, so I feel inspired and I get a lot of hope by thinking about that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that is my like son's purpose, right? Is the teaching.
Yeah.
So so I don't feel like I'm being too greedy. I don't want to
Oh.
to be like a bazillionaire. I just want to be like feel like I'm like an equal with other people who are like a professional person. That sometimes
Yeah.
I think I did have a lot of shame, maybe even about my parents and their position compared to my friends' parents and their positions when I was
Mm.
young. And I can feel like when I became aware of that, and it's like around my son's age, or younger, and
Okay.
and I just always felt like, hey, I really don't belong here. This is not, uh, like within the like school and neighborhood where I lived and everything. I always felt like a little like outside the box.
Yeah.
And
Hear you.
and I can
Yeah.
see that probably that happened to my sister too. And yeah, now we're adults and we're still trying to like get over it. That's why we're tolerating so many bad situations and even.
Yeah.
But anyways, I think the sun staring it improves your like the aspect of the sun in your life, like in
Okay.
your
Yeah.
astrology chart. So I think subtly that is making me become like more of an adult, maybe.
Awesome.
I don't know. Does that make sense? I feel like I also have bad communication skills. I can't like communicate what I'm trying to say.
Ah, don't worry,
My
don't worry.
parents too also have that.
It's all good. It's
So
all good. All good. So when you say become more of an adult, you just mean like more responsible. Is that what you were saying earlier?
yeah, like more
Or-
responsible. Don't procrastinate. Do things on time.
Yeah. Yeah, more responsible, more or less. More, yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, of course, like I said, like the sun and really healthy things will really help all of our parts of our life, our work, business, and relationships, and making money, and everything will help when we have a healthier, stronger, more vital, less toxic physical body system. Um, yeah. And what were you saying a moment ago? I was the same, like feeling not like just like feeling like out of sorts or like in school or like when you're younger, like a bit different than
Yeah.
other people. I totally got that myself, yeah, for sure. I know what that's like. And a lot of people say they don't belong because they just don't feel like most the way most people seem to be living or feeling or behaving and thinking. That's what a lot of people think, like, oh, I don't belong here. I'm a star seed or like I'm from a different planet or that type of stuff. It's just
Uh-huh.
maybe they have a parallel life or like past life with different like for sure maybe a different place in Earth's history, like Atlantis or Sirius or Lemuria, etc. Or a different like planet, like Arcturus or Sirius or Pleiades and stuff. But I also feel like we can fit in more as well. Like we can learn to sort of accept where we are right now in life and living on Earth. I think we don't have to feel like too like away from home or in the wrong
No, I
place.
just
Like that'd be bad
yeah.
to think in the wrong place. Like it's bad, something big mistake has happened and we've been dumped in the wrong place and now we're stuck here. That's not the way we want to think because then that's a very sort of negative type of limiting idea to
Right,
lump
right.
ourselves. Yeah, we can make the
No, I
most of
don't
ourselves.
I don't yeah, I don't think like that, but sometimes I think like, oh, maybe I'm incapable to like rise to like an equal level with the kind of people that I'm
Yeah,
around. And but now I don't think like that. I think I'm fully capable of doing it, and that has improved a lot as I've gotten older.
yeah, yeah,
But I think I don't know how to say it. I think maybe, yeah, it wasn't like I felt like I'm from a different planet or something like that, but I
Yeah.
felt like I think I felt like some shame, like just saying like I'm not as capable or I'm not as smart, um, or I'm not like as good looking or like as these other people who are all around me. And
Yeah.
then that just kind of like hurt me a lot. And so I always feel like, and I think my parents felt that way too, also. So I
Okay.
think that's kind of like a family curse we
Yeah.
all have to, or like a family challenge we all have to like get over,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And is this when you're younger or when you're an adult? I know it's a little bit when you're younger, but is it also as an adult or who you're
Yeah,
hanging
definitely
with?
definitely when I was younger, and then carried over to when I was an
Yeah.
adult, you know?
Yeah. And now you might look at your peers like those two successful ladies, at least in terms of business, but like you did say, they did get divorces. So it's always really interesting. Like we don't really fully know what's going on behind the scenes of different people, and there is different forms of health and wealth and abundance, health, relationships, money and
Yeah.
career, or stress or peace levels, our family life, or even our parents and brothers and sisters, like our people who we're close to. So we all carry a lot of like different challenges and stresses depending on who we are. So yeah, I know what you mean though. It's we can compare and comparing. We all compare. I think comparing
Or
is
yeah,
absolutely
yeah. Oh,
positive.
and sorry, uh, I don't want people to look down on me. I always felt like people look down on me. Even
Ah,
even like in the spiritual community, which I am, I'm like, it's like, oh, I don't want people to like feel sorry for me, you know?
yeah.
I
Sure, sure,
really
sure.
don't like that. That's the thing. I think that's the like root of the shame.
You think that's the root of the shame, where that's part of the shame, where you
A
thought
little
in the
bit,
past
yeah.
people looking down on you or feeling sorry for you when you were younger.
Yeah. Or I just want to feel like I'm an equal. That's why I always feel like I have to work harder. I have to work harder. And so in the beginning of my marriage, I worked myself to the bone, and then I
Yeah,
totally ignored my wife. And I missed so much time with my wife. And then I missed so much time with my kid because I was always working, working. And it was just, I
yeah,
just want to feel like I'm like a regular guy like these other people, you know?
yeah, yeah. I hear you. It's like you're trying to compensate or overcompensate for feeling not good enough, and that makes
Yeah.
total sense. That makes total sense. Yeah, usually there's a pendulum swing to the other side to overcompensate for a childhood wound. For example, if we were told we'll never amount to anything, we might like just completely go wild trying to like succeed at something to prove our parents wrong.
Uh-huh.
Or say, um, yeah, well, if we were told we're not smart, we we can either take it really terribly and feel not smart, and that can affect us for a long time, or we can also try and overcompensate by always trying to be the smartest and prove ourselves to people around us. And that could be even to the point where we're like completely unnecessarily putting in to show how clever we are, and people will think we're like arrogant. So that could be a huge overcompensation. And it's not stemming from the fact like it's just stemming from a wound where we feel like we're not smart because our parent or teacher or a child may have said it to us and it really stuck in us. It wouldn't be so much a peer, but it can be our peers. But often, more often than not, trauma usually is from our primary caretakers, like our parents or whoever is our primary caretakers. So yeah, yeah. Well, that's great. So you've learned that now, and now you're finding to seek more balance in terms
Uh,
of having a successful family life and quality time with your parents, with your family, I mean, with your wife and kids.
Owen, can I tell you something else?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's good.
I
Yeah,
guess I already realized it, but I think a lot of times I felt all those bad feelings. And then I think that I got like angry with my parents and then mistreated them also
yeah,
out of like resentment for like feeling inadequate myself,
yeah.
you know?
Makes
It's
sense.
the thing. And then that like compounds the problem, right?
It does. Yeah, it makes sense. So healing is so important to get to the root cause of our, why we're behaving a certain way, the reasons. And if we can understand why others are acting or feeling a certain way, it really helps us so much to deal with another person instead of jumping to quick judgment. Why are they doing that way? With frustration, anger, or resentment. But we also have to look, it helps if we understand, if it helps if we understand others and ourselves, like, why are we feeling this way? If we can understand why people are feeling a certain way, we'll understand why they're behaving a certain way. So if we unravel, like, why are they behaving a certain way, back to why or what are they feeling to begin with, even if it's ourselves, then we can try and work on why we're feeling this way, which will basically go back to our needs and wishes, our desires and needs, because you felt the emotion of anger, bitterness, or resentment because your needs and wishes weren't met by your parents to feel like good self-esteem. Like we all want to have a need and want to have good self-image of ourselves. So then because your parents didn't do that towards you, they didn't like nurture you with a positive self-image and self-esteem. They didn't look after some of your needs. You felt sad and angry and bitter, resentful. And then it makes sense then why and this happens in relationships like all the time. It makes sense why there's a buildup and then we're very like we're touchy, we're on edge, like something small will set us off because there's a buildup. And that's like a huge thing in relationships. A huge, 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 huge thing. So we want to get to the opposite point where there's a buildup of positive feelings and then what would have like triggered someone and set them off the edge because they're super touchy, they're already ready to like just go 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 crazy, go very touchy or negative commenty just over something small. The same something small can happen, but if there's a buildup of positive feelings prior and positive relationship prior, the same thing that would have caused like big really like touchy bitter remarks would maybe be met with a completely different emotion and action, like reaction or response from the same person. So yeah, that's like super duper important for sure. It's good that you're noticing that, and then you can change that as well. And you can even like, if you wanted to, you could say sorry or say that was wrong how you like or bitter or angry, like mean to them or whatever else you want to. How you acted in a certain way and reacted. You could say there's reasons for this, but that doesn't excuse my behavior, and like I'm sorry for that. Like you could even say like that behavior was wrong to do that. It's not like you're saying I'm wrong, I'm bad, like because that's more like identity and shame related. But like separating it from who you were to say the behavior was wrong, it wasn't good, it wasn't positive. To say I'm sorry that behavior wasn't right, and it was wrong or whatever else. And I can see how it hurt you and affected you when I was taking a prior bitterness towards you. Everything okay?
Yeah, yeah. I was just realizing maybe I'm talking a little loud because I'm like I
Seeing
didn't
who's
realize there's some other rooms around me.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
I'm just hoping people were not like hearing my
yeah.
conversation and getting irritated.
At least, yeah, maybe it's too loud. But at least what the content of what you're saying, that's a dose of reality because I'm pretty much sure everyone can relate to being like stroppy or unfriendly or
Hmm.
harsh and rude even because they've been hurt. And the person who originally hurt them didn't actually own their behavior and say, my behavior was wrong. I'm sorry why I said these things to you or did these things to you. That wasn't fair or right. And that affected you negatively. And then you're having a negative response back in the future because of that. So we all have to sort of look at our behaviors and change our behaviors instead of attacking or blaming or criticizing. We need to just talk vulnerably about our own emotions. Like when this happened, I felt this way, and I'd really love it if we could be like closer. Like yeah, like for example, with your parents, say when you sort of behaved or said these things about, I felt like I'm not worthy, and I felt really sad, and I felt angry, and I'd really yeah, I that's kind of more or less it, you know. Instead of saying like you did that, you did this, you're terrible for saying these things to me, it's just like an attack and blaming and saying you're wrong, you're bad, you're a bad person. You're saying when I was a child or whatever, when this happened, I just felt really upset and sad and I had a low self-esteem, and then I ended up getting angry and bitter about it, and then I lashed out back at you in the future, and that's not right behavior either, and I'm sorry or apologize for that. And it'd be nice if we could just, just those type of things. There's definitely a way to communicate in a way where we talk about our emotions vulnerably instead of attacking and blaming and criticizing another person.
Right.
Yeah, and saying sorry, how can we do things differently or better for the future so the same thing doesn't happen again. That's like super important. It's not what happens in a relationship as much at all as how we make repair after what's happened. So if there's an argument or a fight or whatever else, an argument, it's not so much the argument, but if that can be like let go of and healed and repaired and fixed so it doesn't happen again in the future, and we say sorry and apologize, and we don't blame each other, but we say you're accountable for you, I'm accountable for me, and we say like I'm sorry for my part for what I did that wasn't like right, and how it affected you, and this is what I'm going to do in the future so it doesn't reoccur from my part, from my point. Yeah,
Makes sense.
yeah, making repair is like essential. Yeah. Yeah, there's so much like to nurture a good relationship and to stop like going downhill. Yeah, it's definitely a big downhill if we don't make repair and accountability for our own behavior. And we also need to set up boundaries for people. If people keep perpetrating doing the same things, we have to say like maybe if like people, if you say if you're like let's say we don't let's say we don't clean up the dishes, and it maybe it's our turn, or we wake the person up at night time of being too noisy and loud, which might apply to you now. I'm just kidding, maybe it doesn't. No, let's say we're with our wife or our husband and we're too noisy and we wake them up like by being careless or unthoughtful, or we don't do the dishes, and they might say the next day, you're so selfish. They come to us like you're so selfish. Like you always do this. You're just so annoying. I'm sick and tired of it. Like, like I don't know. I just that type of stuff. Like you're always doing this, and I'm tired of it. Like, okay, so what would be better would be if they could say, you know what, when I was trying to sleep last night, you were really noisy and I couldn't sleep, and I felt like I wasn't being cared for, and that made me feel like really, really sad and even like upset towards you, felt angry. And that's one way we could say, or we could add in, I'm not attacking or blaming you. I'm just I'm just sharing how I felt when I wasn't able to sleep and you were being noisy, at a late hour. And we could even throw in saying like we could throw in a compliment or a positive thing saying, I understand you're just really passionate about like making music or like listening to music. And that's a really nice thing that I appreciate about you. Like you're working hard and you're trying to make music, or you're just really enjoying your show, but the television was too loud. But because you work so hard for the family and you're really, really good with that, and you just wanted to unwind and relax, I understand. It's just that is at a little bit of a time for sleeping time, so to speak. And then we could say, yeah, then so that's like it's good to sort of be nice and share how we feel instead of just a personality attack or name calling, like you selfish so and so, you selfish, bad word, that's an attack
Yeah.
or a blame, criticizing, attacking the character. But we say when you're so noisy watching television, I couldn't sleep and I felt sad and untaught for, and then I just, we can even go as far to say like I want us to connect, instead of disconnect over these things. So yeah, that's just like various things to learn. Um, and if someone comes at us with an attack saying like you selfish so and so, a boundary would be like saying, I really want to hear how you're feeling and what you'd like, but it's not okay to like call me names or attack me or like blame me, like criticizing me. That's not okay. But what is okay and what's really good is if you're willing to share how you feel about what happened and talk about yourself. and then I want to help the situation get better. But it's not okay to come at me with like harsh, loud words or interrupting and calling me names or attacking and blaming me. That's
Yeah.
not okay. And if you keep like, for example, also you can say, and if they seem to resist that, if they say, "Oh, okay, I totally hear you. Let me do this better way." But if they say, if they're resistant and they don't want to hear you or don't agree with you, then you could say, if this happens, if you keep like attacking me or if I blaming and shouting or like interrupting me, then I'm just gonna have to take space for half an hour. And that's not me trying to control you. It's me controlling and choosing my behavior in response to something else that's happening outside of me. So you're entitled to choose what you want to choose, but I'm going to choose what I want to choose. And if somebody's shouting, interrupting, name calling me or attacking me, then I'm going to take space for half an hour. And I think it's really positive because usually when people are on fight or flight and they lose control from past trauma and their adrenaline and blood pressure goes up, then people lose control of themselves and their rational mind. They can't think properly. So actually, it's essentially important to take some space when these things happen. When one or two people are like this with raised blood pressure and stress hormones, their brain is just actually literally functioning properly anymore. So taking space to like wind down is essential. And it's been shown in studies when people do like take space for a while through either deliberate choice of taking space or an accident, like something happens that they relax then. Um, if they get back to the same discussion, it could be totally different feeling and atmosphere and energy about it. And it's so much easier to go by. But if you keep trying to like dig in and like argue or fight or prove that you're right and the other person's wrong with stress hormones and higher blood pressure and everything else, what usually happens is things get much worse. And even ultimately in a lot of relationships, that is when actual physical violence can take place. At the
Right.
worst, it's when the space doesn't take. And usually that's because one or both, or even just one, won't leave the other person alone and allow the person to take a break. It could be one person saying, leave me alone, I'll talk about this later. I need to give me a break, like take space. But if one person keeps following and insisting and going on and on and on, stress hormones and blood pressure, everything else rises. And that's when it can lead to just worse and worse and worse, potentially even the physical stuff, even just verbal stuff that's really negative. So yeah, we have to be aware of like so many different things when it comes to like quarrels, relationships, like, arguments and fighting and how we approach something vulnerably. Like, because we all get sad or angry or upset. No relationship is like free from that. It's actually healthy. It's normal and healthy to have like disputes or a little like a little bit, a little bit like that. But it becomes better afterwards. It's a problem solving occasion. So making a complaint is okay. I have a complaint to lodge. Hey, I have a little complaint to lodge here. Versus like
Uh-huh.
you're so and so. I don't like you. I'm sick and tired of it. You're so selfish. You don't care. You're like you're no good. You're just not. That type of things are insults and name calling and criticisms. Whereas having a complaint is like it's like imagine in a business or a company, I want to lodge a complaint, but it's for the positive purpose of making a positive change. So that's really good. So even the best of relationships, and it's been shown also when you approach things in a softer tone, with even a compliment or words of appreciation at the beginning and softness and gentleness, it's so much better than just coming like full on steam ahead with like, hey, I don't like the way what's going on. You never like have spent quality time with me, or you're never around anymore like the way you used to be at the beginning of a relationship. This type of thought. Never on
Right.
always do this. The never on always thing, we need to drop that and we want to approach with a softer tone, coupled with appreciation and vulnerability. For example, maybe you at the beginning of a relationship or loads and loads and loads and loads of people. Let's say the partner really wants more cuddles or like quality time. Instead of saying you're always busy, you never have any time for me, that puts people on the defensiveness straight away. And what we could say is, you know what, last week or a month ago, and we cuddled in bed and like watched a movie together, or we went for a romantic walk at the moonlight, and then we held hands and we had a lovely evening together. I just felt so happy, and I really, really, I really would love if that would happen more often. That would be I feel sad when we don't have that enough, but I just so love to have that more often with you because I just love being with you. If we're more vulnerable like that with even like compliment or just talking about ourselves and not saying you never or you always or like you're so this and that. If we just say, hey, I really like this and I really like this and I'd like more of it, and that's so much more like positive. Yeah, big time, huge. Because then people don't hear insults or attacks or blaming. Like, you're wrong and bad. That's what an attack or blame is. You're wrong and bad. You're wrong and bad. You're wrong and bad. It's more like,
Yeah.
hey, love this about you, and I wish we could do more often. That's so much more like happily received.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Kind of opened up into a bit of a little thing there about like communication tips and skills that we can cultivate.
Yeah, that was very positive. Thank you. I see a lot
Yeah.
of behaviors that you're talking about that happen in real life.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, and making repair is also like what we originally said, that that's super duper important, you know. I'm just trying to think, and maybe there's one person in my life who could possibly make maybe a bit more repair with. He's holding bitterness and resentment towards me. And I wasn't sure what to do exactly for a long time, because it's kind of like he's being very of the line of like attack, blame, criticize, all my fault. He's the innocent victim. He did, but it's not real like that. But in a relationship, well, see, that doesn't work in a relationship either. If you're just trying to say, "Hey, I'm the pure, innocent, angelic victim, and you're the baddie," you know, it's all your fault and you're wrong. That doesn't work very good in relationships either, for sure. It's much better to say, "I played a part, you played a part. Let's work at it together and make it better for the future." That's much better and healthier. Even
Yeah.
if somebody's part was less or more, it's good to say, "Well, I did have a part too, but how can I improve my part?" And I'm willing to look at
Yeah.
that. And yeah, like looking at people when they're talking and like maybe nodding, that's really
Uh-huh.
important. Like, oh yeah, okay, or maybe you're right, or I hear you. That's valid. We want to validate people's feelings instead of saying they're wrong for feeling it that way. So if someone said like, "I'm really upset and pissed off right now, I'm really sad and angry because you didn't do this," it's better not to say because you didn't do this, but we don't want to say we don't want to say you make me feel either. Like, you made me feel like this way. But you made me feel so annoyed last night because you woke me up. It's better to say, like, when I was woken up because of the noise, I just felt really upset, and like I wasn't being cared for. Is there a way we could improve this where you get your needs or wishes for doing this thing and I get my need for sleep? Maybe we could work around the time frames or the volumes, try and work it out, you know, where it's a win-win situation instead of a win-lose. We don't want any win-loses in a relationship typically. We want win-wins.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
negotiating, understanding each other's feelings, wishes, and needs. Yeah. But yeah, what was the last thing I was saying there a minute ago? Communicating, being vulnerable, taking responsibility. Yeah, yeah. We don't want to blame it all on somebody else. Yeah,
Cool.
that's been proven and shown to be very successful in studies where it's actually supposed to be more beneficial if when men say, "You know what, you have a point," or like, "I hear where you're coming from," or like, "You're right." Because I think in evolutionary history, men are much less likely to do this. We're always like more in dominance and control in the patriarchal world. And where the macho self doesn't want to admit that you're wrong. It's like an ego thing.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah.
And men like to do that. But it's been shown to be very much more beneficial in relationships when obviously when a woman does that, they're more likely to do that in the first place. Like, but when a man is willing to say, "You know what, when we listen to our partner's feedback or what they're saying and say, "You know what, you have a point there. I hear you," and that's a good point. That's what's really received very well by women. It's obviously received well by men too, because we all like to hear that. It's like what we feel or think is important. So yeah, we always
Right.
want to we always want to validate how someone feels. Even, so for example, words we could say to validate would be, um, like if someone says, I felt very upset or frustrated about this situation, we could we could say how you feel is important to me and it makes sense. It's real how you feel. It's okay to feel this way, and I'd like to learn more about this. Or if I want to take responsibility for my part, while you take responsibility for your part and work together. You know, if someone says, "Oh no, I feel like this might be a bit like crazy to say," or "I hope you don't mind me saying it's not like because I want to say this thing to you, but I feel you might think it's like, stupid how I'm thinking or feeling." You could say it's not stupid if it's important to you. It's important to me, and what you're feeling is real. Like, you're really feeling this way. It's not something you're making up. It's valid. It comes for a reason, and I'd like to hear how you're feeling and what you'd like to share with me. So don't be ashamed or embarrassed of how you're feeling. It comes from a real place. It's genuine. It's authentic, and I want to hear you out. And let's see how we can work on this together without attacking or blaming. And we both
Sure.
own our part and improve together. So that's very connective. Yeah.
Nice.
And another thing with relationships is really fascinating is that in relationships that fail, it's been shown that approximately compliments, words of appreciation, compared to negative words, it's approximately 0.8 to 1. So it's almost 1 to 1, but there's a bit more. I think there's a little bit more criticism or negatives than positives, just by a little bit, like 0.8 to 1. But in successful relationships, it's 5 words of appreciation and positive words about your partner or to your partner, compared to every one sort of complaint or like negative. So
Uh-huh.
you want to keep like giving and giving and giving much more words of appreciation. You want to start change your mindset to instead of scanning for faults and problems about your partner, you want to
Uh-huh.
scan for positives and things you can appreciate and amplify and be grateful for, and say, you know what, you're really good at that, or thanks for doing this. Even if you say thanks, even if it's their turn to wash the clothes or do the dishes or go shopping, you still say thanks for doing that. Even just simply saying that, even if it's their turn, that counts as
Uh-huh.
one. That actually helps to feel appreciated by somebody else, instead of, because when that builds up, it cultivates a good feeling in the relationship. And then when there is a complaint, the complaint is like really absorbed in like an aura of positive feelings. It's absorbed in the.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're raw and there's like an energy of complaints and criticisms and hostilities built up, you try
Yeah.
and bring up a complaint, and it's like it feels like a terrible, massive attack, and it's definitely not received very well. So you want to
Right.
cultivate this thing, and it really bolsters and protects potential complaints. And a complaint can be a very good thing. It's not a criticism or an attack personally. It's more like, we have a little issue. How can we improve it and work on it together? You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
Fascinating stuff.
Yeah, really.
How do you feel about all
Oh,
that?
yes. Thank you. I was happy to hear it.
Yeah. I know. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. I'll let you go, and again, I'm super busy, but maybe I'll at least I'll try to implement some of these things, or maybe I'll try and write some things down so I
Yeah.
can remember what you said, and
Yeah.
we can continue next week.
Yeah. Definitely, yeah, and just go over the recording. I'll put up the recording on the school community. It'll be up in the classroom section of past workshops or past live weekly calls.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so yeah. One last thing. So not only is someone else's feelings valid, but our feelings are valid too. And if we feel vulnerable or like sad or angry about something, we want to bring up a topic to our partner. We also want to try and teach them that like we're valid for how we feel as well. And as long as we
Sure.
approach it vulnerably instead of with attacking and blaming and criticism, it's nice for them not to spring to the big defensive and say, you're always at this. We want them to like basically say or feel what we're feeling. How I feel is important. It's worthwhile. It's and we want to be heard and understood. And
Yeah.
then that really, really helps us to be received, and then not to be mistaken for attacking and blaming. Because sometimes we actually do approach vulnerably and people like think it's an attack or a blame. And it's good to try and know that what's not an attack or a blame isn't an attack or a blame. It's actually just a vulnerable trying to connect to improve our life together. And for people to recognize when they're accidentally hearing attacks and blames when there's none actually there. And if we
Yeah,
accidentally
because
attack,
that happens to me a lot.
yeah,
Misunderstanding.
yeah. And if we
I have an
accidentally,
intention to say something one way, and people think I'm criticizing them or something.
yeah, so we need to look at our words. Are we saying it the wrong way or the right way? Is there a focus on you versus when this happened, I felt this way? And I take responsibility as well for my part. So if they are continually going to think we're attacking and blaming and personally criticizing, we want to try and teach them that we actually aren't, and they have to work on not hearing that. And people who have been criticized extensively in the past from their parents or the caretaker, that's a trauma,
Uh-huh.
and they will have the tendency to hear way more attacks and blamings that are really happening.
Right.
To learn
Oh
that, we
yeah.
might teach them that, we might to share this with them and help them to like go and learn about this a little bit, or like learn about this video or watch this thing, or I'll tell
Uh-huh.
you and give you an example and how important it is, because we can't have a connective positive result from, let's say, a complaint or like approaching our partner to something that's important that we can work on together. We can't do that if someone's like counter-attacking and blaming us, or going on the defensive or ignoring us because they think we're attacking or blaming them. Like, that's not going to work out. So we need to like get get to the truth of the matter of what's really an attack or blame and what isn't, and then we can validate each other. It's normal and real, and it's okay for you to feel this way, and I want to hear you,
Yeah.
and I want to take responsibility for how I'm affecting the situation negatively and change that for the future. And here's what I'm going to do the next time. Next time I'll make sure I'm going to do the dishes when it's my turn. Next time I'll collect the kids when it's my turn. Or next time I'll do this. I'll be quieter at nighttime, and I'll even set an alarm to do it, or I'll write it down, or I'll make a note in my calendar. I'll be more
Uh-huh.
responsible about it. I'm not going to let it slip
Right.
and slide. You're important to me. Our relationship's
Yeah.
important. That's really
Yeah.
positive together, yeah. And when
Definitely.
people are being vulnerable, we don't just like stare at a phone or ignore them, or look at the window, or like turn away and cross our arms. That's very also negative too. We want to look at them. We want to be like, maybe say quietly in the head, like, you're good and you're trying your best and you're important to me, or like, you're a lovely person. We can quietly say this in our head, or we could just simply look at them as well, like look at them without saying these things in our mind, and just like try and feel their pain and unravel the mystery of why they're feeling this way and how we contributed and how we can make things better. And it's where it's fair. It's not just like we give everything and we get nothing. We want it fair, where both people are safe to be heard. It's about creating
Right.
emotional safety instead of attacks and blaming. We want emotional safety where when we feel upset about something, sad or angry or upset, it's safe for us to say this to our partner, because they're not going to attack us or ignore us. They're not going to abandon, reject us, or like what's called stonewalling, which is like looking away, just being completely like icy about it, or looking on their phone while we're talking. We don't want that. It's safe because they're not going to reject us or push us away or attack us. They're going to receive us and validate us that we're not weird or strange for feeling how we feel. We're perfectly normal, and it's acceptable and normal to feel human emotions. And we
Right.
we affect each other. Like, no man or woman is an island. There is a saying like, other people don't make you feel the way you feel. You're responsible for your own feelings. That's not really the truth properly at all. Like, I know it's partially the truth, for definite, but at the end of the day, everything makes us feel stuff. Like, if your kids don't listen to you and they're deliberately rebellious, like, how do we feel? Do we feel anything, or do we feel nothing? We definitely feel stuff. If our partner ignores us when we're sad, of course that makes us feel like hurt and more hopeless and desperate. If our boss or our co-worker is being unfriendly to us and unkind or attacking us, of course we feel stuff. I feel it's a bit of a way over exaggerated spiritual idea that we're responsible for our own feelings and nobody makes us feel a certain way. Is all down to us. That's not really
Uh-huh.
true at all. Way
Right.
exaggerated spiritual idea. Really and truly, we're interdependent and we all work together as a team on the planet. Hel- Codependency is unhealthy. We're attached and clingy and needing each other. But interdependency is we positively work together. Like, we go to a shop, somebody serves us, that's interdependency. Like, there's a business giving us gas for our car, that's interdependency. Like, we do this in the house together as parents, that's interdependency. When it's fair and equal and balanced, more or less, with different roles, tasks, and duties depending on our positions and our skills. Yeah, there's an
Yeah.
overall sense of equality, fairness, and cooperation. That's interdependency. So
Right.
that's really positive. So we want that in a relationship, positive interdependency, where we feel safe to communicate and how we feel is safe, and it's not rejected abandonment or ignoring or counter attack or blaming. That can
Yeah.
be safe if we don't do that. But if we're doing
Right.
various things like stonewalling, rejecting, abandoning, or ignoring, we want it. Yeah, we then that won't work. That won't work. That's not emotional safety, and both people will feel a build-up of sadness and resentment and anger. And the
Cool.
last thing is, what's been shown to be really important is, um when we bid for connection, like when we say, hey, the weather's really nice and warm here in Arizona, if your partner just like ignores us and says, well, it could be it's pretty shitty or whatever, if they just ignore us or look at the window, or if they're busy on their phone, they just ignore us, then we've made a
Uh-huh.
bid for connection, and that's been shown. The more bids for connection we're reciprocated with and received, that's very good for
Uh-huh.
our building of energy, good energy in a relationship and success. Whereas if we
Oh.
give them a lovely meal and they don't really like, they just whatever, they keep washing the dishes and they just ignore us. These
Uh-huh.
ignoring bids for connection is really detrimental. Whereas when we say, "Oh yeah, yeah, it's a really nice meal," or "Yeah, it's lovely weather," I hear you really like that," or like, "Yeah, maybe we go on a sun holiday," like, or something. When we're enthusiastic with a bid for connection, or when we hear a bid for connection, it makes people feel emotionally closer. It's very good for
Oh.
friendship. It's been
Yeah.
shown to be very good for relationships. Yeah, and also if we give compliments like you're awesome, like you're so intelligent and good at your job, like you're such a good swimming instructor, or like you're really good like sharing these type of things, or I admire and appreciate like these things that your qualities, like it's amazing, or like I'm proud of you. The
Yeah.
admiration and like fondness really helps a good feeling and a successful marriage or relationship too. Yeah, showing how much you admire and respect and like your partner, you know, that's very, very important.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just saying, sometimes you see these signs from your partner or other people, and but sometimes you're so overwhelmed yourself that you can't reciprocate. But it's better to at least acknowledge, right?
Acknowledging instead of
And then
ignoring, way better than trying to go above and like the enthusiastic response. Yeah. And if you don't feel enthusiastic, if you feel overwhelmed, it's okay to say, you know what, I hear you and I really like what you're sharing. I'm just feeling a little bit overwhelmed and like tired, exhausted, or stressed right now, but I'd love to like talk more about this like a little bit later or tomorrow. I
yeah,
appreciate your enthusiasm. Like there's a little bit of small things we can say, or I acknowledge,
right.
nod or smile, like is acknowledgement. So turning towards versus turning away, ignoring or just is like turning away from a bid for connection. Whereas even just like a look or a smile or a nod or a quick word is turning towards. You've received a bid for connection. Mammals and
Yeah,
people, humans do this. Like we're pack animals, so to speak. We like to bid for connection. It's like a sense of camaraderie and emotional connection, and they all add up. They all add up. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I see that I can see like that happens to my boss a lot because he works a lot. And then I also make a bid to him
Yeah.
somehow to connect. And he's just like, he has no, he has no time and he has no energy for it. And then I
Yeah.
feel maybe a little bit bad, but I also feel like, oh, it's okay. All right, all right. I tell myself, hey, it's okay. That guy is just like overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Don't take it too personally.
Like saying it's been a long day, like that's a bit for connection as well. Like, oh, been a hard day's work or whatever else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Uh-huh.
know. Yeah, yeah, I hear you. Yeah, so it doesn't make it better if someone's like too stressed and they turn away from us and they ignore us. That doesn't make it better, but there is a reason, and it just means we won't have a better relationship with them. And there's a reason for that because they're not aware of this, or they're too busy, tired, or stressed, or
Yeah.
traumatized. Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, and that's pretty cool. Eh? A lot of information there about relationships and communication. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you very much. Yeah. All right, Owen.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sure,
You're
we'll
very
go
good
over.
at speaking about these things.
Yeah, 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 yeah. All right. Well, listen. Have a lovely day, Blake. Lovely to connect with you, and I'll see you again. Maybe I'll see you again next week if you're able to make the call. And until then, have a lovely week, and lovely to chat with you today.
All right. Thanks, Owen.
Yeah.
Please do the same.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely will. And all the best with your work, your move, and your teaching. You're going forward,
Thank you.
and
All
definitely
right.
all the
I'll see.
best for having a better relationship in the next week, hopefully as well, based on what we've just chatting about.
Sure, sure.
Yeah,
All
nice
right.
one.
I'll see you.
All right, see you then. Bye bye, Blake.
Bye.